Man, oh man, is it a good day to be a person with a functioning brain cell on this goddamn forsaken planet. Hello, my fellow illiterate chuds. I'm finally making a second video! Wow! Like many people these past few weekends of July, I went to my local theater to go see Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. I was one of those people that was originally super hyped for this movie. The most connection I have with the actual source material is that I read it in 9th grade. And by read it, I mean skimmed through it so that way I would make a decent grade on my essays, but nevertheless, I'm still kind of familiar with the text on a very surface level. And when it was revealed that this was going to be Nolan's big ticket movie after Oppenheimer, obviously I was excited. I was one of those people that was low-key kind of pissed that the 70mm IMAX screening sold out a year in advance. That being said, I saw it finally with my own mother, and I really liked it actually. It was so cool to get swept up, for lack of a better term, in the hugeness of it all. If Christopher Nolan knows how to do anything, it is make a grandiose setting of something. You know, in The Dark Knight, there's that famous scene where he, like, takes the bomb at the very end of one of the movies. Those amazing sequences where we're taking through Oppenheimer's mindscape, and that one scene where he's giving that lecture about the accomplishment of building the atomic bomb while stepping into the literal ashes of the people he has killed inadvertently with it. Nolan knows how to make a spectacle of a movie. He knows how to make a damn good blockbuster. Also, something that is really lovely about The Odyssey, watching it, especially from a person who is a creative, is that you can feel the love and passion in almost every single aspect of this movie. Obviously, everyone acted their asses off. Nolan has his particular cast that he sets with and added a few new little sprinkles in, like Tom Holland, even though people have been debating about his performance, but I liked it, but I also would do anything for Tom Holland at the drop of a hat if he even breathed in my direction. So what do I know about a good performance, really? The set design, the costuming, even if it's not accurate or whatever, I know there's been a lot of discourse about that, just the sheer scale of it all is something that you cannot bash. Like, this movie is a feat within itself. There's also something to be said about this movie being such a big blockbuster hit in a time where media literacy is at an all-time low. Because if people are leaving this movie wanting to go dig into the original text and being drawn back into any form of classical literature through this movie or not, like, that is a win within itself. That people are having discussions about this movie and thinking about things. When you walk out of the theater with your friends, you feel like that one famous picture of all those philosophers gathered around. Like, it's a fun experience. Even if you have notes about it, you cannot deny the social and societal impact this movie is currently having on the psyches of everyone in our current era, right? And then I saw it a second time, and I didn't like it as much. And it was not because I saw it in XD, with the roller coaster seats and the water squirting everywhere, and I felt like I was being thrashed about right alongside Odysseus and his men. Honestly, that made it an even better experience, in my opinion. However, this movie definitely has its flaws, and some people, because it is such a grand scale epic and so much love has been put into this movie that you can clearly see, people are kind of taking criticisms of it as an attack on the movie itself, and also, like, why would you even think to diss this? It's such a feat of filmmaking. But a lot of people forget about this one little word, nuance. You can like something and critique it at the same time. Two things can be true at once. That is a fundamental truth that is just true in our society. Not everything is so black and white. And apparently, I am not the only person who had strong opinions about this movie. Now, actually, in the original writing of this, like, kind of bullet point script that I made, I was making some points of my own, and then I went back, I read some reviews, I got caught up in kind of the grandiosity of the movie, and thought that my opinions weren't really worth a damn, because, yeah, what was I adding to the conversation? I just felt like if I said something stupid, it would just because I'm a stupid person saying stupid things on the internet that nobody's gonna listen to. And then Emily Wilson posted her review of The Odyssey. Now, if you're sitting there and you're wondering, who the fuck is Emily Wilson and why should I care about her? If you have paid any attention to any of the interviews going on with The Odyssey, you will know that Christopher Nolan has often cited Emily Wilson's translation of The Odyssey specifically as his main inspiration for his own adaptation of The Odyssey. Commonly citing the very first line of the poem that she decided to translate as, "Tell me about a complicated man." And you know what the name of her review is? An uncomplicated man. Let me just take you through some of the highlights, although I will link the actual article review in the description because it is a wonderful read. Because watching The Odyssey and having my own mixed feelings about it, and then kind of being told that I shouldn't be having those feelings, or not that I shouldn't be, but just that they were just kind of wrong, and then having them vindicated by somebody who is actually an academic in the space and somebody who knows what they're talking about, it made me feel so validated, bro. Let me just read through some of my favorite quotes, and I'll be mentioning more throughout this. The poem wrestles with the challenges of encountering strangers, of entering their homes and welcoming or rejecting them from one's own. The contemporary resonances are obvious, and Nolan's movie hints at some of them, in interesting if scattered ways. But the film's vision is too confused, its characters too underdeveloped, to deliver what it half promises in terms of big ideas. As they say at the award shows, I was humbled to learn that Nolan has read at least the first line of my translation of the Odyssey into iambic pentameter. In at least one interview, he cited my version of the first line of the poem, "Tell me about a complicated man." But I would be ashamed to have written any part of this script. Writing dialogue is not one of Nolan's talents. The language is relentlessly expository, humorless, and flat. Attempts at vigorous speech, "my dad's coming home," or "let's get off this fucking beach," sit uncomfortably next to grandiose meditations. We don't see the design or construction of the Trojan horse. Instead, we see a kitsch, poorly designed horse with no wheels appearing on the windswept beaches as if dumped there by drone. The difficulties of transporting large, unwieldy objects over difficult terrain must have been on the director's mind as he lugged his IMAX cameras through the film's many challenging locations. The Trojan War is an aberration, the fault of faceless, monstrous Agamemnon, the one in the weird Darth Vader outfit, who has failed as an American family man by killing his daughter. Damon's Odysseus is motivated mostly by anxiety and guilt, though he is also eager to protect his boy. Holland is good at playing a gormless young man of 20 going on 12. Nolan's Odyssey lacks many of the elements that make the poem great. It has nothing convincing to say about time, memory, history, war, or about the relationship between one warrior's glorious return and the lives of his family, adversaries, comrades, friends, and neighbors. It lacks psychological, emotional, political, and ethical depth. Its narrative structure is gimmicky. The writing is abysmal. None of the characters have convincing motivation for their actions or words. There are no sex scenes, and all the food looks horrible. The most troubling ethical problem with Nolan's Odyssey concerns the decision to film part of the movie in the occupied territory of Western Sahara, thus normalizing the ongoing violence against the indigenous Sahrawi people. It is particularly galling that Nolan used this land simply as a visually striking backdrop for a film that centers, aggrandizes, and redeems the hero of a territorial war on account of his belated and partial acknowledgement of his own guilt. The massacre of the suitors is probably the most enjoyable sequence in the film. The exuberantly villainous Antinous Pattison is the only person who really seems to be having fun on the set. Clearly deserves to be stabbed to death with the dagger of Sinon, but he also deserves one of the Oscars that will shower down on this movie like the golden rain of Zeus. Whether you liked the film or not, or are sucking Nolan's dick right now, she's got some bars, dude. She's got some bars. And hearing this from the person who translated and wrote the specific version that Nolan cited as part of his inspirations, poetic cinema. With that being said, I kind of want to go into my own thoughts about the movie, and what I didn't like versus, what the masses have been saying, whether I agree with them or not, so to speak. And I think the main point that I want to start with is really that I think that is the crux of why this movie is not sitting well for the people that it is not sitting well with, and why it is sitting well with the people that are actively enjoying it, or are just general fanboys of Nolan's work. Being a fanboy is not a crime. It is a crime when you're kind of being a dick about it, though. And that is no unseen thing in the community of Christopher Nolan fans or pretentious film bros as a whole. It just feels like, with the way that he interpreted the Odyssey, and specifically tried to tailor it to be a spiritual successor to Oppenheimer and the same themes that carry over from that movie, it feels like he just kind of wanted to do his own movie, like his own original concept, but just use the Odyssey as like the set dressing because it's epic and manly and men are going to war. there are plenty of really good Odyssey adaptations out there that still carry the weight of the narrative while also not letting go of key things that Nolan decided to cut out, which I will also get to. Like, for example, something that I am meaning to get around to is Epic, the musical, which is literally a fan-made musical rendition of the events of the Odyssey from start to finish.
But when does a comet become a meteor? When does a candle become a blaze? When does a man become a monster?
I think it's technically put into different, like, books, kind of like how the original text is. The fact that they still get to literally sing about the events of the Odyssey for a tale that has been passed down orally for 3,000 years, is very beautiful, and also the fact that they were able to keep the whimsy and fun about it. Like, it's without losing the seriousness of the whole story, so to speak. There's also another movie that I meant to see, which is The Return, which is a movie that solely focuses on Odysseus' return to Ithaca with Ralph Fiennes, and he looks shredded, first of all. I don't know how he got that shredded. That man is kind of a freak of nature in that movie. I mean that with so much love and affection, Ralph Fiennes. I love you so much, bro. But that movie is able to focus on one simple part of the Odyssey, or not simple per se, but focus on one part of it to fully dive in and really digest the intrinsic qualities of the Odyssey and display it on a screen in a way that can be delivering of those really in-depth qualities, if that makes any freaking sense at all. Something else that I feel kind of links to my point about, you know, him wanting to do his own thing while using the Odyssey just kind of as the set dressing is that why couldn't he just make it his own modern interpretation of the Odyssey? Like, why couldn't he just have taken it like so many other things have taken from the Odyssey? Like, the goddamn fucking SpongeBob movie is a representation of the Odyssey. He could have totally taken it into the realm that he is more familiar with modernism and minimalism and darkness and la la la. But when he places it within the actual Greek myth context of the tale, with Nolan, it just kind of doesn't really work the way it's supposed to. Like, he doesn't really do a good job in the Odyssey of doing the classic rule of show, don't tell. We see the sacking of Troy, but do we really see the sacking of Troy? We see multiple villages being burned down, but we don't see the exact violence that goes on there. We only see the aftermath. It's an R-rated movie. We should see the blood and the guts and the gore of it all. And that also helps reckon with the fact that Nolan is trying to paint Odysseus as this mournful man who's like, "Aw, man, I fucked up so bad, now I gotta atone for my sins in this very Christian way," even though Christianity is like 2,000 years in the future or whatever. And actually, Emily Wilson had a very poignant quote about that in her review as well. "We are not shown that war or killing are bad, only that men sometimes feel bad about it, a very different point. Any serious depiction of violence, ancient or modern, must show the perspectives of the victims as well as the perpetrators, and the Homeric poem easily clears the bar. But Nolan doesn't. The Trojans are dehumanized by their masks, we know none of them by name or face. The hands of Odysseus and Telemachus are bloodied only by the most righteous computer game modes of killing, and we feel no pity or horror at the deaths of their victims, whether the Trojans, giants, suitors, or slaves. During the sack of Troy, which he supposedly organized, Odysseus gazes around in bewilderment and horror as if he's never seen a massacre before." Something that I think Nolan could have done in that scene alone with Troy was that instead of making it Odysseus realizing in the very moment that he unleashed hell onto Troy, reckoning with like, "Oh my god, everyone's dying," like, "Oh no, I'm just gonna stare and lament about the manly things that I've done and how they're wrong." He could have easily swapped it out and made it that so an older Odysseus, in remembering the sack of Troy, was walking through his own memory of it and seeing his younger self plundering these temples, killing these people, these women. I don't know if Odysseus were people, but like, typical Greek myth stuff, unfortunately. And it's just so odd that that was such a simple decision he could have made. When we go back to the scenes of Odysseus making the trek through his 10-year voyage, like, it's very clear that it's the lens of that he is explaining this to Calypso. It's just such a simple change that could have been done that would have made us feel the regret that Odysseus has even more so. Like, yeah, he realized he fucked up, but like, it doesn't mean anything when you realize you're fucking up in the moment, man. And of course, there's also the whole online debate about and I have my own issues with that, like the daddy, father, whatever stuff, but again, I am not a linguist. There are other more intelligent people that can speak to that. It was just something that bothered me personally, and I didn't really mess with it, you know? But again, it would have, that kind of just proved my point that it would have been better for Nolan to do it in a modern context, do his own modern interpretation of Odysseus when it comes to, like, I don't know, a corporate merger takeover or something like that. I feel like that would have been sick to see from Nolan's point of view, because I feel like that kind of dark, gritty environment is something that he thrives in his movies most of the time. Like, clean but dark, kind of like The Dark Knight. Something else that a lot of people take issue with, including Emily Wilson, whose quote I will read shortly, is Charlize Theron's Calypso looks gorgeous, but she is never angry, never funny, not skilled in rhetoric, and never consumed by lust for her scraggly mortal victim. She's an unpaid therapist, soothing the soul of the bedraggled, PTSD-ridden Odysseus with drugs, and graciously listening to his disjointed tale of woe. Calypso is one of the points of this story where there's actually a lot to be said through Calypso. I didn't remember this until I started rereading the original text myself and looking into it more, where Calypso's whole existence in this story is kind of a very interesting contradiction to normal Greek myth. In a lot of Greek myths, male gods are basically allowed to do whatever they want to women. They openly them, they kidnap them, they take them as wives, they abandon them, like, they do all of these things. But the minute a single goddess is allowed to do that, everybody has an issue with it. Now, granted, there are intricacies to that as well, because there's a whole thing that Emily Wilson explains about how it's like Athena actually trying to get Odysseus back, and how Hermes is just a messenger, and there's a lot of other things going into that process. But I feel like if Nolan had taken this route with Calypso, A, it would have made the story a whole lot better and not made Calypso such a lifeless character, a cardboard cutout of a person. Nolan has a terrible track record for the way he writes women, this movie included, and if he had even included a modicum of that, I feel like that really would have helped his track record, and really helped him kind of, like, see women more beyond the plot exposition device or the dead wife trope that makes everything move forward. You know, there is something that has piqued my interest, though, that I don't know if a lot of people are talking about. Specifically with the lack of sex and sexually motivated actions in this movie, and also the lack of very vicious gore. It's like the cutaways, and like, it's like he doesn't want you to see it. Is Nolan afraid of showing that? Because if he did, we wouldn't want to side with Odysseus, because we would also see that he is a terrible person? And that's kind of one of the whole things of the fucking Odyssey to begin with. Odysseus is a complicated man. He is not some purist guy who's like, oh no, I accidentally killed a bunch of people, whoopsies. Like, no, he made these choices, and he is aware of that. It's not even the part of, like, taking that part of the Odyssey at its word. It's more so how the public would have received that as well. Nolan already has a track record of negativity when it comes to women in his writing. So if he did things that were more accurate to the text, like showing him sleeping with Circe, his intimate relationship with Calypso, like all of these things, would people have antagonized it and swept it under the rug, saying that it's just a sexualization of women and not a well-rounded picture? Would also showing the needless violence that these men commit against these villages and Troy and these people, would that turn people off because obviously they don't want to side with the bad guys, and people would say, oh, why did they show that? That was too much. They didn't need to do that. And there's other arguments for that in other things and other pieces of media aside. But if he wants to make the Odyssey, you should just commit. Like, If this is your movie where you know everybody is going to show up no matter what, why are you afraid to make those choices? Is it just like a stylistic thing? It is true that Nolan doesn't really show gore in his movies. I don't really know why he does that. Obviously I am not Christopher fucking Nolan, but like, I understand that it is a personal choice of Nolan's for whatever reason he may carry, but it is just not working out in his favor, man. He's gotta be more gritty with it. For the guy who's like dark and gritty and known for his classic Nolanisms of cinema, why is he so afraid to delve into the dirty stuff? Why, man? I'm so curious. Something else that I think is very notable about this movie, and that a lot of people have also noted in their critiques of it, is... Now, I did not know this actually, because I am not a Christopher Nolan super fan or anything. I mean, I like his work and he's made good stuff, and obviously I can respect that. Apparently Christopher Nolan does a lot of his own editing. He writes the thing, he directs the thing, he edits the thing, he has final say on everything, because that is just Christopher Nolan and that's how he does movies. And he has every right to do that. He's Christopher Nolan. But, you know, if this is a blank check movie, kind of like what I said before, not only why wouldn't you commit to the things that you should commit to, storytelling wise, why can't you just make it longer? And I know everyone's gonna be like, what do you mean? It's already a 3-hour movie and the story is already super long and hard to commit to. It's an odyssey to take on itself. Why are you complaining about the runtime? I'm not necessarily complaining about the runtime. There is no breathing room in this movie. Apparently the person who edited this movie is actually the person who edited Oppenheimer, and on a second viewing, I could see why they had edited it the way that she did, where she, you know, was trying to more or less convey the episodic nature of the Odyssey, because it is cut into episodes and books, and, you know, the thing A happens, then they move on to thing B, thing C, it kind of just goes and goes and goes. And, of course, in a 3-hour epic, you want to keep the thing moving. But I feel like that's kind of to a fault, especially with this movie. Because of the way of editing where it's like the dialogue audio lingers over the cut of the next shot, we don't get any breathing room or time to sit with the actions of any of the characters, let alone Odysseus. The only time I really felt like we were able to sit with a character's resonance of why they are doing the things that they are, surprisingly, was with Penelope. There's one scene where Antonius is talking to her behind closed doors as he sees that she is undoing her grandfather's shroud, and it's a very intimate moment shot through the threads of the fabric that show that she is human and is cracking a little bit after waiting 10 years for her husband to come home, and is almost lulled into Antonius's offer until he mentions bringing up an heir, and she's like, oh fuck man, fuck this, like I can't do that. Like, we actually get time to sit with Penelope and her feelings as the woman who is waiting for Odysseus. And yes, there are also technically lingering parts whenever we flash back to the fall of Troy, but that's also interspersed throughout the entire movie, because it's like a flashback thing. So it's kind of in the back of the mind of the viewer the entire time, and also in the back of Odysseus' mind in the entire time of this movie. The scene where we actually go to Troy is one of the other few scenes where we get that breathing room. We get to watch from start to finish how they get out of the horse and successfully open the gates of Troy and start killing people. But that's also the scene where Odysseus is like, oh no, what have I done? Oh no! I'm a war criminal now! What have I done? Oh! Like, be so for real, man. Odysseus knew exactly what he was doing. It was his idea to make the damn horse, bro. You can't just go take backseats on the goddamn horse and be like, actually guys, I don't think this is a good idea. Let's just wrap it up and go home. You know? It's like, what are you doing, bro? Now, for the next part of this video, I want to make it very clear, like I have said over and over again. I am not a linguist, I am not an archaeologist, I am not a Greek historian, I am not a Greek, I am not anything. I just don't... There are so many people on the internet that are having more academic, in-depth conversations about these types of things about the Odyssey that you could obviously go and check out and see from more intelligent mouths. However, there is one thing that I feel I can speak on to the fullest extent of my academic knowledge. And that is the fact that I said before, Christopher Nolan has his own way of making movies, and if he doesn't want to include whimsy in there for the sake of the grounded realism that he tries to achieve, that's fine. But when you are inherently adapting one of the oldest storytelling things in the history of humanity, one of the oldest Greek myths that has been passed on in its entirety to the current generation, you gotta get with the fucking whimsy, man. And Nolan has a little bit in his heart, I can tell. There are some jokes in the Odyssey that I thought were fucking hilarious. The whole part in the final scene where Antonius is like, the spears, the shields, and he's not doing shit. Like, that's funny as fuck. There's the whole bit where Telemachus is like, you have wise eyes, Athena's eyes. And if he said that to me, I would fold over like a fucking bed table. But no, like, and then Odysseus clocks him for that at the very end. He's like, you shouldn't see gods and people, kid. Quit being a doofus. Nolan obviously has jokes, and there are also parts that he genuinely could not escape when adapting the Odyssey. See his entire take on the Cyclops, which is the inciting event of Odysseus' banishment. Also Scylla and Charybdis, the very concept of the gods interfering and making playthings of the people of the Odyssey. He really just wants it to be as grounded and gritty and real as possible because that's what he's good at. But at the end of the day, brother, it is a Greek myth. Again, to quote Emily Wilson's great review, one of my favorite moments was when Zendaya assures Damon that gods are not hard for mortals to understand. Who doesn't understand thunder, fire? But the film wants to have it both ways. There are no gods, and yet shipwrecks and death are presented as the inevitable consequence of the blinding sun of Poseidon and devouring of the cattle of the sun. Zeus's law is portrayed as being crucially important, yet there is no Zeus. Nolan's vision of the world is not quite big enough to include either real gods or real people who might be different than us. I understand that through some decisions that Nolan made, like the thunderstorms and the sea being as violent as it is, and also the whole thing with Athena being basically a ghost of Odysseus' past and reckoning with the Battle of Troy, it falls flat because inherently that is what made the story so mystical, and amazing to read, and captured the hearts of humans for so many millennia. This is a story of a smart, wily man who has taken down cyclopses and giants, who has heard the siren song, who has done so many things, and yet it is just completely sapped dry of the personality that the original 3,000-year-old text gives it. Let's be fucking real, they got rid of the nobody joke. He couldn't even include the nobody joke. One of the oldest jokes in human history that everybody understands fundamentally, and Christopher Nolan couldn't bother to include it in his movie because it would have taken away from the seriousness of the Cyclops situation, I guess, in his mind. Again, no sex. Odysseus is a man who is susceptible to the whims of his wiener, and he sleeps with many women on his journey back to Penelope, but Nolan has to make him this stone cold man that is only there for his wife and only wants to redeem himself through his journey back home. There's also no goddamn shapeshifting, no gods. This is why I'm making the case of Nolan could have made this his own thing and not use the Odyssey as the setting, but rather use the core of the story and turn it into its own more modern, more contemporary thing. But he just didn't want to do that for some reason. He wanted an excuse to go out on boats and make cool shit, and I don't blame him for that. That's a chance of a fucking lifetime, but it just ends up leaving this weird mixed taste in your mouth. Also, of course, another very common Nolan critique that a lot of people have, besides the writing, besides everything else, is the lack of color. Dude, Greek society was one of the most colorful and exuberant societies of human history. It was only recently discovered that actually the statues that we see as so regal and poignant were actually painted over with very colorful, designs and stuff. And also, even Emily in one of her quotes said something about the wine dark sea being more of a gray color. Bro, you couldn't have turned up the saturation just a little bit? But no, you gotta keep it with the gritty, manly realism. Men don't like colors. Men don't like actual complex characters. They want to see a man go home to his wife. Side tangent. Ben Safdie. Ben Safdie, get the fuck back behind the camera. Nobody wants you on the screen, brother. I am being dead ass. The minute that this man opened his mouth in Hades as the great Agamemnon and had the wimpiest fucking voice I'd ever heard come out of a piece of armor. It's like, brother, are you kidding me right now? Get your ass back behind the camera. We don't need you here. We don't need you here. And I get maybe that was kind of the point of Agamemnon, is that he's like this Darth Vader ass looking guy, but also he's simultaneously a weak man because he was killed by his own wife or whatever for killing his own child and that whole thing. But like, and I don't know enough about that. I never read the Iliad or the Aeneid because I forgot that those were two different stories, if I'm being completely honest. I just don't like Ben Safdie. The only thing that he brought to the movie was that he was the most Greek-looking guy there, and that's not even really a win because he takes off his helmet for like one scene. So get his ass out of here, bro. I don't want to see his ass in a movie ever again. Get the fuck out, man. I think I've done enough complaining, honestly, though, at this point. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that while I did enjoy this movie, and I do see the good things that are coming out of it, and the clear dedication and love put into this movie, there's a lot of issues with it that make it a not-so-perfect film. But it's most of the movie-going public that's going to see this as a fun summer blockbuster to get out of the 110-degree heat for 3 hours gonna care about. No. But some will. And that gives me a little bit hope for the levels of media literacy in this world that we are currently living in. Something that I think is funny that this movie unironically kind of brings to light is the fact that writing is so important. And yeah, that's kind of obvious, especially when, you know, this is one of the oldest human stories in history. It dates back 3,000 years and has resonated with people ever since it was told orally around a fire by whoever Homer was. Something that I have always fundamentally believed and run to in my own career as a writer, whether it's in marketing or just in general in my free time, for crying out loud, is that writing is such a foundational part of almost most things in life, whether it's communications, whether it's through movies, whether it's through television shows, like whether it's through books, whether it's through art. Like, the storytelling and the word aspect of it is super important. It's almost like a foundation, if you will, to any main piece of art. And if there is even a semblance of cracks in that foundation, it shows in everything else and kind of just ruins all of the other good work that was put into it. Now, am I saying that Christopher Nolan's work is sacking all of the amazing work that has been done by everyone else? Maybe a little bit. But not entirely. It is not causing this whole thing to just cascade in on itself like a pile of dominoes. It's just notable to me, though, that because the writing is one of the major issues of this movie, that it is kind of putting a damper on all of the hard work that everybody else has been putting into this movie, into their roles, into their, like, prop building, into their cinematography. Like, it is all dampened because Christopher Nolan is an inept writer in some regards, and that sucks so bad, and he doesn't even know that, really. Like, or maybe he knows it now that Emily Wilson just whipped him a fucking new one, but like, it's so sad to see that, because I think time and time again, people underestimate the importance of writing, both on a larger societal scale and also just in day-to-day things. Again, this is something I've seen firsthand in my career, where people do not give a hoot and holler about what I have to say because I'm just the writer. What do I know? When something doesn't make sense in the final product and it all comes down to the writing, then they're like, why didn't we catch this earlier? Maybe it's because you just didn't pay attention, man. Not that Nolan didn't give a shit about this at all. Clearly this had some very personal stakes for him. I know in interviews he's talked about how he kind of, I'm paraphrasing, so this is probably not entirely correct, where he kind of relates to Odysseus because during his movies and his passion for filmmaking, he would be away from his family for such a long time. And like I said, like, I am not making this video to bash on Christopher Nolan and be like, I could have made a better Odyssey. Hell no. I'm glad that, if anyone, he was the one to make the Odyssey. I can't really think of another director I would have entrusted it to, if I'm being perfectly honest. Hi, Editing Parker here. You can tell it's different because I'm wearing a different color bandana. Actually, there are some directors that I would probably entrust this more to than Christopher Nolan. Because I actually thought about it. Like, Robert Eggers, I think, would have done a fantastic job. His take on Nosferatu, and now he's gonna do Werewolf, has been super cool, and it would have been cool to see how he took Greek myth. He at least would have been able to add a bit of, you know, saturation and color to that, and I feel like he would have done it in a more epic way in a less like kind of weirdly minimalist way, like the way Nolan does. I think Chloe Zhao is another name that I think should be mentioned here with her work on Eternals and Hamnet. She brings a lot of emotional depth to her movies and her characters, and I really feel like that's something that also was kind of lacking in this version of the Odyssey. Those are just the two that came to my mind. I'm sure there's probably countless others that could do something well. I even thought about briefly mentioning David Lynch, because a lot of the Odyssey is based on, you know, like, or not a lot of the Odyssey, but there are like dream sequences, and it is meant to be a myth, so it's kind of like dream-like. Maybe he would have made it kind of like how he made Dune, but, which we all know how great of a blockbuster that was, but, you know, still, rest in peace, David Lynch. We love you so much, man. Hope you're resting easy. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to make a little correction on that. Whoopsie! But that being said, like I said at the very top of this, nuance is important, and you can like something while still having critiques of it. Just because I didn't really like things that he did in The Odyssey doesn't mean I don't respect Christopher Nolan as a filmmaker, as a writer, as an artist. Like, he's done some incredible shit, and I have this philosophy from The Menu, if you are familiar with that horror movie, where I am very much trying to stay in my lane as to what I can speak to. Not to say I probably will be seeing it again. I do want to see it in the whole like 70mm IMAX, because I did see like the proportion thing, and I saw Sinners in 70mm IMAX, and I know how big of a difference that made. So who knows? Maybe I'll go see it again and I will just be sucking Nolan's dick on the way out. I don't know, man. You never know what's gonna happen and how your mind can change. But basically, yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to say about it. I hope that this was insightful for some people, or at the very least a fellow friend just ranting about how they felt about the movie, because that's kind of what I do, like, to my friends, my own friends. That's part of why I wanted to make this video, because my friends were kicking my ass when I sent them this an audio message on Discord about my feelings, and they were like, bro, just make the goddamn YouTube channel, just make the review channel, just do all this stuff. And I don't know if I'm gonna review stuff more often per se, but I do want to make my next video about something that did also come up in the Odyssey, but was not a part of the Odyssey. Anyways, look forward to that, I guess, in the future. I don't know when it's gonna come out. I don't know when this video is gonna come out. I'm also trying to learn DaVinci Resolve instead of using iMovie, but I might use iMovie for this just because it's a lot easier. I hope you have a good day. Leave a like, leave a comment. I want to know your thoughts about the Odyssey, if it changed your life, if it's something that you feel is really important to you, if you felt similarly and felt kind of crazy for thinking that, like, anything at all. Is really fun to just talk to people about it. With good Discord support. Obviously, if you just say I'm a chud, that's fine too, I guess. Any publicity is good publicity, am I right? But yeah, I'll see you later. Bye!